It's great.
Oh, it'll be a great time. Well, Sean joins us now. And Sean, thanks so much for being with us. Uh, we really appreciate it. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
I have to tell you, so I actually went to the Soul Surfer premiere and did interviews there many years ago, and I remember you had done that as well.
Yes, I did. That was a great premiere. I love that. We had the blue carpet at the Cinerama Dome. That was a fun night.
It was, and I got a poster signed by Sophia, and my daughter still has it to this day.
Oh, she's one of the best actresses ever. Anna Sophia Robb played Bethany Hamilton that night. Yeah.
Well, okay, so let's talk about the movie because I am a huge Reagan fan, and I always have been. So a lot of people might see this and not immediately think that it would be faith-based, but there's a lot of Christianity woven throughout. Can you tell us about that?
Absolutely. I mean, all the stories I try to tell are organic to the real person. And Nellie, Ronald Reagan's mother, was very religious, very faith-based, and took him to church every Sunday. And so it was part of his life. And it's a biopic that tells the whole story of his life from the time he was a little kid, called Dutch Reagan,
Yeah.
with an alcoholic father, and then brings him up through he was a lifeguard. He was a radio personality and then an actor, Screen Actors Guild president, and then governor of California, then retired, and then decided to go and become president of the United States. And he lost against Ford. And then he was retired again for 4 years, and then decided to go for it one last time. And then that's where most people pick up on his history when he became president of the United States. So, um, and his faith took him all through that. Like you can definitely see his faith helped him make decisions along the way completely.
Yeah, and so even though Ronald Reagan wasn't Catholic, he did have a friendship with Pope John Paul II that many, myself included, didn't really know about. So can you tell us about some more of that, and are we going to see some of that in the film?
Absolutely. And it's interesting. I mean, I'm a Catholic, and it was when the Pope was shot, because then they had something in common. So they got together and they started talking about that. They were like, how many people in public office or the Pope have been shot at before and lived and could talk to somebody who had the same experience. So that's portrayed in the movie, which I think you'll enjoy. And yeah, and he's a Christian. He definitely, even the Bible he used when he was sworn into the presidency was the one that he had grown up with, and he would write little things in the side of the Bible, little things that meant things to him. And we actually used his real Bible in the making of this film.
I'm sure, Sean, that there are a number of different projects you could work on. Why did you decide to bring the story of Ronald Reagan to the screen?
Well, it's interesting. My first job in the entertainment business was doing audio. I had a friend whose dad directed the Academy Awards, Marty Pacetta, and I kept saying, "Give me a meeting with your dad. Give me a meeting with your dad." And finally, after bugging him for 4 years, I got a meeting with his dad, and he goes, "What do you do?" And I had no idea. And I said, "Well, I'm in a band. I plug in microphones." And he goes, "Audio, that's for you." And so the next thing I know, there's a car in my driveway, takes me to the airport, and I'm plugging in microphones for Ronald Reagan's inauguration, 1980.
No.
Yes,
That's
40 years
awesome.
ago. He's the 40th president. It's my 40th film. And it's just the coincidences are just wildly beyond anybody could think. But that was what intrigued me about it when I read it. But the really thing that caught me was that it's from the Russian point of view. I mean, who would think about watching a movie from a Russian spy's point of view played by John Voight? And all of a sudden you get drawn into this thing and you went, what were they thinking of Ronald Reagan? So it was a very interesting way into a story that a lot of people know about but didn't know it from their point of view.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it for that's one of the reasons alone. But so obviously Dennis Quaid is playing Ronald Reagan. And I'm curious, just as a director, what exactly is your role with the lead actor? Are you coaching him to be more like Reagan? How does that relationship work?
Well, that's a really good question. I mean, one of the first jobs of the director is to cast the movie. So I had worked with Dennis on Soul Surfer, and he was just such a great actor, such a great guy, very likable. And that's, the qualities that Ronald Reagan had, very, very likable. So then you got to remember the actors bring their brain filled with ideas and they come to the set with that. And my job is to utilize those ideas and then make it work with all of the other things that we've planned. But Dennis would like learn the whole speech that Ronald would say. We might only in the script have a sentence or a little paragraph. He would learn it all, and he got into it even down to his voice. Like, you know, when people talked in the 40s, they talked like this, and they were a little bit higher because he was a younger man. And then when he got older, he was the traditional Ronald Reagan and the tilt of the head, we literally graphed that out, and that was all Dennis. So I just kind of adjust his performance into it, but I made sure that he had all the videos to watch, all the speeches to watch, and he was just incredible. I mean, he's a consummate actor, and this is now the third thing I've done with him, so I just love working with Dennis.
And after you did all the research and you did the film, what impressed you most about Reagan?
All right, well, it comes down to the world we're living in today. And it's very interesting that the film is being released now because we made it in 2020 and 21. But because of the pandemic, because of the actors' strike, because of the war, everything got slowed down. But I grew up in the 80s. He was the first president I voted for. And I just remembered a kinder, gentler nation. Now, there were half the community hated Reagan too. The Iran-Contra, the not getting into AIDS quick enough. There were lots of things that you forget how hated he could be. But we as a people could be on different sides of the aisle and be friends. Like we have Dan Lauria playing Tip O'Neill, and he says by 6 o'clock, you know, we're gonna fight like heck all day, but at 6 o'clock we're gonna go to a bar and have a couple of beers and enjoy each other and get to know each other so we can be friends. That's what I want people to walk away with this from, is we got to get back to that time where we should disagree and we should have differing ideas to better, you know, our country, but we have to be friends. We cannot always be enemies at that level. That's what this movie's really trying to get across.
Yeah, and I read an article actually recently about the friendship between Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill. I'm sure you knew about that. It was really inspiring because you don't hear about that, people from different sides of the aisle being genuine friends and wanting to spend time with each other outside of when they have to. So moving on from that, because we are definitely excited to see Reagan, we want to know about some of your other projects. I heard you're already working on some other things.
Well, yes, I just did a Holocaust movie called Bow, Artist at War. And if you saw Schindler's List by Steven Spielberg, there's a couple who get married in the Plaszow barracks. So we went over to Israel and got the rights to their story. And that's the next movie coming out from Showbiz.
And Sean, where can people watch the movie? I know it's going to be in wide release. It's coming out very, very soon. Where can they see it?
Well, Reagan's being released August 30th, worldwide, 3,500 screens in America. So it's going to be everywhere. So it'd be great if they came that first weekend, because obviously you want people to see it and get the word of mouth out there. But so far in the pre-screenings and the premieres, they've been really enjoying it. And it's not just fans of Reagan. I mean, it's a biopic. It's like when you saw Spielberg's Lincoln, or you saw JFK or Frost Nixon. It's the whole story of these men.
Well, Sean, thanks so much for being with us today and bringing this story to the screen. I know two gentlemen, myself and my son, who are very, very excited about this.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
Have a great day.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
God bless.